Welcome back to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm Curtis Smith. Our next guest is a fascinating man whom I met a few months ago at an event in Fort Wayne. His name is Roger Stark, and he is the CEO of BrainWare Learning Company. Roger, thank you for being with us tonight.
I want to thank you. It's an honor to be here. We really appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it was a great conversation we had a couple of months ago. Let's continue it right now. For those that don't know BrainWare, tell us a little bit about your organization.
Well, the short story is we make people smarter. And then the follow-up question, well, how do you do that?
Right.
Well, there's a couple of things you have to do. First of all, you need to be able to properly assess what your cognitive skills are, because we're in the business of assessing and building cognitive infrastructure. And so that's what we do. So we build cognitive skills, skills like attention skills, processing skills, auditory processing, visual discrimination, cognitive flexibility, paying attention skills, memory skills, working memory, declarative memory, procedural memory. All of these skills make up a large portion of your intelligence. So if you build these skills, you build their intelligence. Because that's the big message out here that I think that I want everybody to really understand. And the first thing is the big lie. The big lie is that intelligence is fixed. Intelligence is not fixed. And it's been perpetuated forever. The big truth, you can build intelligence. And the big secret, we can empower an individual to take control of 50% of their learning variability, because your cognitive foundation drives over 50% of your learning variability, over 50%.
Wow.
One people might argue in school that perhaps a teacher is what defines great learning. Great teacher is nice to have, not the most important. Well, great curriculum, nice to have, not the most important. Small classroom size, nice to have, not the most important. Great, loving, caring, nurturing family, nice to have, not the most important. The number one predictive factor by far, the research is clear, lots of research, is your cognitive profile, how well your cognitive skills function. And we're considered the world's most researched, comprehensive, integrated cognitive skill development tool delivered online in the world with sustainability and transfer. That's a big deal to be able to say that. We operate in 71 countries in all 50 states. But when you think about your cognitive profile, what's so challenging and frustrating should be for parents. Because if you have a child that learns differently, you're on your own. I hate to tell you that. Schools are not prepared to help children that learn differently. And 7 out of 10 of our kids learn differently. And if your child ever gets behind, they have no way of catching it up. They make what they call IEP. It's all workarounds and accommodations to avoid what they have challenge with, and that's your underlying cognitive foundation. Because it's like building a house. If you build a house on a bad foundation, what will happen?
Right, it's going to crumble.
It's going to crumble. And learning's no different. If you have a lousy cognitive foundation, learning's going to be far more of a struggle than it needs to be. So it's great that you can have these skills, but here's the challenge. They drive 50% of the learning variability. Schools spend less than 5% of their budget on it. They spend 75% of their budget on issues that drive 25% of the learning outcome. So if you've got an issue that drives over 50% of the learning outcome, and you spend less than 5% of your budget on that, and the issues you're spending 75% of your money on, and they're only driving 25%, you'll never be able to get that right. That's all got to change in a dramatic way. And then the second biggest challenge of schools, they never assess a child's capacity for learning. Can you imagine doing a mathematical formula, whatever it is you decide you're going to do as a family or as a network here, you got criteria, you got decisions, you got outcomes. And so there's going to be several factors you're going to want into that formula. And if you don't assign a value to each factor in that formula, will you ever get the right answer? Never.
Right.
They never assign a value on a student's capacity for learning. They see a child coming across the street, got an eye, a couple of arms, a head, whatever. They're perfectly fine. All I've got to do is take my information that the state tells me and shove it in their head. And they might quit. How's that doing for you?
Roger, a lot of challenges without a pandemic, without a mental health crisis around our country. But we do have a pandemic and we do have a mental health crisis. How are those things factoring into how we learn, how our brains operate, and especially how kids are getting through this time?
Well, as I said in the beginning, we are a product of our environment, our experiences, and our genetics. And this is certainly an experience. Everybody's going through it. And it's an experience not everybody is familiar with. Most of us aren't. And it affects different people in different ways. So I don't say there's one cure-all for everything. There's not. It's probably a multi-dimensional approach. But as it relates to your cognitive abilities, we're seeing people now have what they call cognitive fog after they have COVID. So they're experiencing cognitive fog. Well, that's a challenge. That's where we come in. We can help. Some of them are what they call post-traumatic stress disorder after dealing with these pandemics. We help there. We work in a lot of military VA facilities around the country now. So there's opportunities with all those different things. And then, not to mention, and probably the greatest is the anxiety level for a child. Now, you think about this. A young little child, first of all, everything they're experiencing is for the first time anyway. They don't really know why. They haven't gotten into all that at a younger age. And then they're thrown into this pandemic that goes counter to everything they've been taught by their parents or whatever, and trying to fit all these pieces together. And then of course, everybody worries about the child, but you got the whole family issue. Mom and dad are dealing with extraordinary challenges that they've never had to face before. So when you put, that makes for a hot mix at home of stress, lots of anxiety, lots of stress level. And it impacts, and then you take it to a child that learns differently. You take, everybody else is dealing with all those things. But now you've added on, this child learns differently. And they still got to deal with all that. The complexities that are going on there are just overwhelming. And if you can come, and what it does to a family when a child learns differently, it creates stress throughout the home. Believe me, if mom's going to bed at night crying her eyes out, she's not too interested in talking to dad. Right? And the stress level is high across the board. And that's another big thing, is recognize when you do something like this for your child, it will be the greatest single gift you would ever do for your child, would be to provide BrainWare. And it will be a gift that would give for a lifetime. But recognize that you're not only going to be giving your child a gift and lower their anxiety and stress levels, but it's going to lower the anxiety and stress levels across the entire family, throughout the household. So you want mental well-being, you want to talk about healthy mental state and mental well-being. These are the things you need to think about.
We've got about 30 seconds left. For folks that would want to connect with BrainWare, what's the easiest way to do that? How do they find you?
Well, the best way to go is you just go online. You Google BrainWare or you Google Roger Stark. But our web address is mybrainware.com, my, and it's where, W-A-R-E, mybrainware. But if you just go to BrainWare, you'll find us. We're everywhere.
Great. Roger, thanks so much. Powerful conversation. We need a change. Hopefully your company is going to be spearheading that.
We try awfully hard.
Yeah.